The Ministry of Timelines bears no official responsibility for the content of this research. This biographical report was compiled after extensive research on Admiral Fred Phillips, an important cultural figure in the Belbos Timeline. Information on Fred Phillips will be key in understanding potential applications of this timeline. Fred Phillips was born on the 5th of November 2171 in the Holy Ike's Hospital, Detroit, Earth, to metallurgist Charles Phillips and senior factory overseer Agatha May Phillips. Though he bears a contemporary Northern American name, Fred Phillips was of Asian descent. His ancestry traces back to Japan of Old Earth. Fred was born into a position of relative stability. Detroit was the third most affluent city in North America by this point in the Belbos occupation. Having laid waste to most other human cities during their invasion in 2052, Detroit was left relatively unscathed by the conflict. It became a centre for the rebuilding effort over the following decades. More recently, in the push for militarization by the Belbos-aligned administration, Detroit became a North American industrial hub. Fred's parents were loyal to Belbos and the satrapy, which was reflected in the career opportunities they were afforded. Their patriotism was absorbed by young Fred, who at the age of 6 watched the media coverage on the victorious invasion of Great Nest and the subjugation of the Bronteroc species. It was after this that Fred began to display an interest in joining the Navy. His parents were so proud of his Navy ambitions, good people, hard-working. They did their utmost to give Fred the best possible life that they could. He was given every opportunity to further his military ambitions. The first school he attended was the Detroit Academy for Gifted Youths, one of the most prestigious and exclusive schools in North America. Note that there was no entrance exam at the Detroit Academy for Gifted Youths. Your application was weighted by your loyalty to Belbos and whether or not your family were upstanding citizens. This was all based on reports from the continuous and extensive surveillance program maintained by the Peace Corps. At 12, he was accepted into the École Militaire, the most prestigious military academy in the Seoul satrapy, located in the heart of the capital, Paris. He received excellent scores in physical aptitude and showed a deep grasp of the parent protocols. Privately, he passed the Peace Corps' comprehensive background check. Extensive files on all citizens were kept by this overt police force. Whilst Fred's human teachers found him to be predictable and dogmatic to the extreme, he did find favour amongst the small number of Belbos teachers who taught philosophy at the École Militaire, this being the study of the parent protocols and their implications for all aspects of life. Due to his high grades in philosophy, he was also selected to join an exchange program and spent a year on Belbos. His time on the imperial capital of the hegemony was dedicated purely to the study of the parent protocols. His parents watched with pride as he graduated at 16, with honours, top of his class. Fred's grades were heavily weighted by his philosophical test scores. His mother Agatha openly wept at the ceremony, which was held in the Champ de Mars outside the school, much to the discomfort of her husband. At 16 years of age, all human citizens without a medical dispensation were then subjected to a 2-year national service. Fred was no exception. He was, due to the interference of the Belbos teachers, given a place in the security detail for a low-ranking Belbos diplomat on Razax. He developed a deep hatred of the plebeians privately, but did his duty as a good human and safeguarded the interests of Belbos. When his 2 years of national service were up, Fred applied to join the Navy as an officer, with the ambition of his own command. He completed the standard year of militarization and officer training. His human teachers found him to be unexceptional and possessing a focus bordering on narrow-mindedness. His overall training went well, and he excelled at the ever-important philosophical side of his education. Fred Phillips finished his officer training at 19, and was then given his first posting as an officer. Due to his glowing record and important national service, he expected to receive a placement on one of the Navy warships, as per his request. However, his placement was purely down to human leadership, and with no Belbos interference for the first time in his career, he was disappointed. He was given command of a security detail on the Titan mining station around Saturn, lovingly referred to as the arse end of nowhere by the mining crew. He spent 10 soul-crushing years on the Titan mining station. At 29, after repeated requests for transfer, Fred finally was allowed to move to a Navy warship as a relatively low-ranking warfare officer on the TSS Lubeck, a darker class destroyer. 3 years later, at the celebration event above Great Nest, Fred was specifically requested by one of his old Belbos teachers to act as their human liaison. They then gave him a field promotion for his duty and pride, something the Belbos could not legally do. They had no official jurisdiction within the Admiralty. However, at the risk of angering their alien overlords, the Navy had little choice but to accept Fred's elevated rank. He was in the Admiralty, but not granted the rank of captain. He then spent 10 years as a commander, going from ship to ship, until eventually he became the longest serving commander in modern history. At this point, the Admiralty had the difficult choice of discharging him from the Navy, removing him from active service, or giving him a captaincy. At the express request of Belbos, Fred was given a ship. For the next 5 years, Fred performed his duty to an acceptable level, though he was regarded as a below-average officer who only was in his position thanks to his political connections. The Navy was stunned when, in 2215, Fred won a military games exercise. Underestimated by his peers, no one believed he would do anything interesting, but Fred pulled off a stunning victory. By dogmatically following a poorly known and ancient strategy outlined in the parent protocols, he took all of his fellow officers by surprise. On the 30th of November 2215, he was promoted to Admiral amidst the push for militarization following the border disputes with the then unknown Rehetan entity. During the initial border disputes with the Rehetan, with the Periclean expedition at the front, Fred's fleet remained on patrol above the human capital. Following the first contact with the Rehetan and a successful cessation of hostilities, he was sent to Othana to protect the Matok people, an order given directly from the Belbos. Whilst still mustering his fleet and preparing for the journey, Admiral Fred Phillips was summoned to the Imperial capital to answer for humanity's failure. They had failed to protect the Matok from hostile alien forces. He went to Belbos for the second time in his life, head held high. When the summary judgment was announced by the Emperor of the hegemony, Admiral Fred did not falter. He saluted. Admiral Fred Phillips died at the age of 50 due to prolonged exposure to a Belbos plasma rifle. He gave his life gladly in the service of Belbos. Throughout his life, Fred was loyal to a foreign regime and dogmatic in his response to stimulus, yet he became a symbol of protest that catalyzed the human race. After his death, he was used to represent ideologies inimical to his own beliefs. His sacrifice became a turning point for the human navy and many other political organizations. The Free Human Republic traces its origin back to Admiral Fred Phillips. Therefore, potential applications of the Fred effect should not be underestimated by the Ministry. This concludes this ancillary report on the Belbos Timeline. Please refer to the main body of this report for further details on the Belbos Timeline.